Macquarie commodities analyst Alexander Boss. Thank you so much for speaking to us. So I just want to pick up on some of the points that Ryan made in his report that we heard there. Russia exports 14% of the world's wheat. That's up from 0.5% in 2000. Could they be taking the U.S. mantle anytime soon?
Not in the near term. We see the Russia actually slipping down the rankings in this coming year due to this persistent drought that they've seen this spring. So Russia has gone from around 15% of world wheat exports to probably only around 10% in 2010. That's due to this drought that we've seen that the Russian government has declared as the worst drought in around 130 years, so since records began in Russia, essentially. And this will slash the Russian crop by around 20% from last year's levels. And this will eventually reduce their exportable supplies to the world market. And then we eventually also see a realignment in world wheat flows back to the U.S. And the U.S. should pick up the slack that Russia can't meet in the coming year.
So the U.S. could actually benefit from this. Their position in terms of wheat exports could strengthen somewhat?
Exactly. We see into the end of the marketing year. We don't see an immediate switch back to the U.S., but we do see it sometime into early 2011. That's due to the fact that U.S. wheat supplies are around 40% higher this year than they were last year. That suggests that the U.S. suppliers have plenty of wheat to sell onto the world market.
Why is that? Why is it up by 40%?
Essentially, Russia has been undercutting U.S. supplies on the world market for the past year. That has boosted the supplies domestically of U.S. wheat.
So Russia has been making inroads?
Russia has been making inroads over 2009. So the entire former Soviet Union area has now become the world's top supplier of wheat, overcoming the U.S., which has historically been the world's largest supplier. But this year we see them fading back, and that will bring the export demand back to the U.S.
Okay, and I also wanted to ask you about the price of wheat, because as you mentioned there, it has actually been rising recently. Tell me more about what might be fueling this rally.
We've seen about a 20% rally in world wheat values, both on the CBOT, U.S. wheat prices, as well as Matif European wheat prices. We think this has been a tremendous rally from very bearish levels earlier in the year. But we question whether that can be sustained in the near term because, as you said, a lot of the fundamental news has now been priced into the market. And we need to see a confirmation of both European and Russian yields, whether they are worse than expected or coming in line with expectations before we think the market can take another leg higher. On the U.S. market specifically as well, the corn and soybean rallies seem to be taking a rest as well. And if wheat doesn't have corn and soybeans to propel it higher, we think the fundamentally bearish situation in the U.S. Doesn't currently justify a significant increase in world wheat prices.
And what is the best buy right now for you in terms of agricultural commodities?
We like the livestock market still. Both hogs and cattle are near all-time lows in terms of supply at this point. We also like the soybean market, especially the near-term contracts, but the later-term contracts we feel are bearish due to the record South American supplies coming online. The corn market also is turning more and more bullish, with China buying corn recently for the first time in nearly a decade. The other issue with the corn market is that there's a high degree of uncertainty in terms of yields this year in the U.S. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture has just confirmed much lower corn supplies than the market expected, and that has also led to a fairly significant rally in U.S. corn prices recently.
Alexander Boss, good to see you. Thanks very much.